Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor, where we're all just trying to survive in a rough world.
And we're back, Carmen. I have to say it was a rough week. I'm still upset with you and considering whether or not I should forgive you. And we'll have this...
And wait a minute, and vice versa.
And we'll have this conversation
but I
right here
you.
on Surviving the Survivor. And I'll tell the audience why. So people think that this is shtick, but it's not. Carmela and I have not been talking for a couple of days. And I'll tell you why.
Because we talk 10 times a day.
I wrote something called Joel's Simple Life Plan. I reached rock bottom. Was
Joel,
upset
can I just say something?
Was upset
Joel,
about the way things are going.
We are not doing psychoanalysis.
No, we are doing it
Joel.
because I want to let them know. I want to let them know what's going on. So I come up with this entire.
We won't have time for the 3 questions.
Yes, we will. We'll have plenty of time. I come up with this entire plan, present it to Carmela, XYZ, about what I want to do and how I want to do it. The plan lasts exactly 3 hours. I get a call from Carmela, and everything in the plan she just completely ignores and starts yelling, as she always does, and she turns the pressure screws, turns the screws like a vice on my head, and I just cannot take it anymore. Do you understand that?
Let me tell you what happened. He said that he's going to the doctor.
Listen to me.
Listen to this.
I'll let you speak after. I want to say one thing. I have at least 5 full-time jobs. I have 3 children. I have 2 dogs, and I have a wife. And I cannot take any more pressure. And not 3 hours after I present to you the way I'm going to do things in my head to clear some of that pressure. Imagine walking around with a weighted blanket. That is how I exist in my life. Not 3 hours passes and you are calling and upending my plan and just creating pressure where there doesn't need to be any.
Let me tell you what happened. He calls me up that he's going at 8 o'clock to get an injection in his knee at 8 a.m. Now, he starts to work at 2 p.m., but he cancels his work for that day.
I had taken the day 3 weeks prior.
But let me finish. So he says to me, he says, the insurance didn't work out. I went all the way there at 8 o'clock and nothing happened. I said, then you're going to work. And he says, you are putting pressure on me. I was planning to work on the other projects today. I already had the day off and an avalanche of fury.
Most grown men, 52, aren't under the thumb of their mother. But
you let yourself be.
Sadly.
You even say to me, I wasn't under the thumb of my mother.
I'm just telling you on the record here on Surviving the Survivor.
We have it now on record.
I cannot.
People will really love this session. It will be better than William Steele.
The pressure anymore. And I
got
cannot
it. I got
it.
Because if I say to you, you are not going to work considering that you did not get the injection on your knee, and then you went ballistic.
Carmela, if you keep the pressure on me, I'll never go to work again. I'll be in a rubber room in a hospital. Bobbing back and forth in the corner, naked, salivating on myself.
I think we got the point.
You mentioned...
I know, I learned something.
You mentioned...
I can only say, yes, sir, yes, sir.
I said, we have it on video now, and you know who else? We've got a guest coming up right after this break named William Steele, and he's got stuff on video, too, that he's seen, and it has to do with Jeffrey Epstein
and
names. Ghislaine Maxwell.
I named Joel Waldman.
One of the most interesting interviews you will hear in all the world of media, coming up next on the Main Schmooze.
Do you want to help my son? His company, Content Partners Media, specializes in brand video and content creation for innovative companies and others. Please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com and hire him. I repeat, please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com.
Welcome back to Surviving the Survivor. It's time now for the main schmooze.
So, Carm, a few weeks ago, we had on Chris Hansen of Dateline fame, and the first question I asked him, did Jeffrey Epstein commit suicide or was he murdered? And I tend to definitely believe the latter. And that is a lingering question among the media elites in this country, those who care, those who are are you really taking a Ricola out of your mouth and putting it into a wrapper on YouTube in the middle of our main schmooze? Did that just happen, or am I imagining this?
What do you want me to swallow it whole?
I'm imagining this. And also speak into your microphone, Carmela. And please do not embarrass me again.
Oh my God. Today he's bad.
So listen, we have an incredible guest on. I say this every week, and the reason I say that every week is because I book the best guests in America. We have William Steele on, and William, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Excellent.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Let me tell the audience who William Steele is. He is the author of the popular new book, Ghislaine, Sensational and Impure, you know, as in Ghislaine Maxwell, as in Jeffrey Epstein's sidekick. It's an intimate look at what was going on behind the proverbial curtain in the lives of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And this comes from an insider. William Steele himself was a casualty of abuse at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. He rips the phony masks of civility off the nefarious duo, and he names names. Carm, that's been a theme of our show the last few weeks. We had a professor who uncovered and unmasked anti-Semitic teachers and professors at elite universities. We named names. Last week, we had Fred Guttenberg on, whose daughter was killed in the Parkland shooting, and he named names of people who are not helpful when it comes to reforming what's going on with gun violence in this country. And today we continue that trend in naming names. Now, William Steele is a very fascinating background. This is the stuff that intrigues me. He's a former jewel and art thief who spent years in prison. He is now reformed. He is a crime victims advocate, a true crime author, soon to be a big-time TV personality, which he'll tell us about as much as he can, and a social media king who I may hire to do social media for our podcast because I seem to be failing at that miserably. Bill or William, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. We're grateful to be on.
So let's start here. How did you wind up incarcerated? What's this about the jewel thievery?
Well, years ago, I always wanted to be a Mission Impossible type guy that could do anything, all for the greater good. And I got some training. I learned how to be a locksmith. I went to a school in New York City. I'm from Brooklyn. I went to a school in Manhattan. There was the New York School of Locksmithing. And I studied that, safes and alarms. And I perverted those skills, mostly the result of a cocaine addiction I developed back in the 80s. And I went through that battle. I don't drink or do anything else, but I did have a cocaine problem. And so I took those skills and put them to bad use. And I was, very prolific in what I was doing, committing burglaries all across South Florida, California, Vegas, New York. So I'm very acquainted with that life and the negative consequences that stem out of it. All the millions that I made were not worth the consequences and the loss of all that time and family members.
William,
I served over 18 years in prison for nonviolent offense.
Very recently we had a very nice gentleman who happened to be a cocaine what was he, shipper?
A cocaine distributor. And please, Carmela, you cannot look away from the microphone. You need to speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Yeah, but the
Broadcasting 101. Broadcasting 101.
He's very, 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 very annoying this week. If you were like this the whole time, this would be our last one.
So, and your point, do you think that William Steele knew Luis Navia? So we had a guest on. His name was Luis Navia, and he was high up in the Colombia drug cartel. He was a cocaine distributor. He got caught after many years, like 30 years, and he spent 5 years in federal prison. So
I knew Jorge Ayala, one of the top people, one of the original cocaine cowboys.
Oh, wow.
I knew him pretty well. I used to traffic cocaine and guns also.
Interesting. So two things come to mind. Number one, instead of my parents pushing me into a liberal arts university, I went to Brandeis University, which was a huge waste of time and money. I should have gone to locksmithing school. I probably would have had a legitimate business. I had to pay a locksmith about $500 a few weeks back when I locked myself.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. You don't have to be a thief to make a very good living as a locksmith today. Maybe in those days, no, but today locksmiths are very important.
The two things I should have become are a plumber and or a locksmith. But William, let me ask you this. When you went to locksmithing school, was it your intent in your mind prior to going that you're going to use this for untoward practices to break into things, or you just developed a skill and then had the addiction and then got into that?
Not necessarily my intent, although at that time in my life, I was open to doing whatever it took to make, money. It was the 80s. It was the everything goes. I was already, using cocaine in a very minimal way. So I was kind of open to whatever came up. And I graduated top of my class and became very good at what I did.
And how was life in Brooklyn growing up? We're from Jersey. What section of Brooklyn?
I'm from Bensonhurst, Sheepshead Bay area. Some people don't know it's sandwiched between. It's called Gravesend. So it's right between the two. Beautiful. I grew up in a beautiful neighborhood of Brooklyn. We have one of the biggest pieces of property in that area. A few minutes from Brighton Beach. It's nice. It was a very quiet one-way street with a gigantic single-family house, giant backyard. It was almost like a house in the country in the middle of Brooklyn. So the problem was my mother was mentally ill, and because of all the family drama that unfolded with that, and my friend Sammy got killed in a car accident, and I self-medicated with more cocaine, and I got very, very addicted after Sammy passed away. He was Jewish as well, and that by the time I found out about it, he was already been buried right away, and so I didn't get a chance to really pay respect. Family was sitting shiva. So that's how this started. So I had that struggle with cocaine throughout the 80s and early 90s. And then I paid a dear price. I was doing what I was doing. I was making a lot of money. But again, none of it's worth it. And it's more rewarding for me now with my fiance, Dr. Mary Bass. She's a forensic accountant. And she's also really a strong victim advocate. And she supports me. Before I was getting out of prison last year, Tom Madden, who was a dear friend of mine, was the former vice president of NBC. He now owns Transmedia Group, public relations firm in Boca Raton.
Yeah.
She came to him for PR for an incarcerated client in California. And he mentioned me and introduced us, and he actually was matchmaker. Tom Madden introduced Mary and I, and now we're engaged. We're getting married soon.
I was shocked to learn that Tom Madden is not Jewish. He lives in Boca. He was a number 2 guy at NBC, and he everything about him, he reminds me of he's a great guy. He reminds me of a Jewish grandfather, fatherly figure. And then I was blown away when I found out he's not.
And he stays 28 years old forever.
Yeah, he's got more energy than I've ever had. But we digress. So, I think people are intrigued by sort of this underground life. So and I'll get off of this and into Ghislaine in a moment. But the jewelry thief part of this, what were you doing? Were you going to jewelry stores and like snatching stuff? Were you going in at night and unlocking stores? How is that going down?
Primarily, I would do a little of everything, but not snatching. I would do very cased out jobs. For example, I would work with a lot of real estate agents at that time, and I would get into houses that were either open houses and I would case them. I would pose as various celebrities' brothers. For a while, I was posing as Donna Karen's brother. And I would say, my sister's doing a fashion show in Milan, and we're looking for a house in South Florida, $3 to $6 million range. So the realtors didn't do a lot of vetting, and they would take anybody into these homes. And because I also sold houses, I kind of knew what to say to keep the salesman talking, and they would show me every house. I mean, all
They
over,
would, they would
St.
go,
Andrews Country Club,
they would
Intercoastal
say,
Waterway, Las Olas, all over the place.
they would go and say, this painting, actually behind this painting, there is a wonderful safe.
It's a wonderful what?
Safe.
Safe.
Oh, behind is a safe.
So it's funny, William. I'm lecturing my kids. I have 3 kids. I started very late, but I've got an 8, a 6, almost 3-year-old, and I'm now lecturing them daily on street smarts versus school smarts. And you definitely have street smarts. You were obviously raised in Brooklyn, and you learned the ways of the world very quickly. It's interesting because if you didn't take a criminal path, I bet you would have been super successful. You know how to talk to people, you know how to maneuver. I can tell already. So I might have you give my children some lessons in life lessons by William Steele.
No problem. That's one of the things I want to really get into since my release from prison. Like speaking to groups, kids, criminal justice groups. I've been invited to speak at universities and criminal justice, law classes. There was a lot of COVID restrictions, but all those requests are still starting to come in.
So when did you finally get caught, if I could ask you, and how many years did you, and how did you get caught? When did you get caught, and how much time did you spend behind bars?
Which time?
The last time. How about the last time?
Backing up to Brooklyn in my youth, I did actually attend Kingsborough Community College. And then I went into real estate, buying and selling houses and investments, and also for Century 21. I eventually was in South Florida, and I had a kind of a vindictive ex who told the police a lot of things that that I wouldn't have certainly told them about what I was up to, and so it cascaded into that. I went in, I violated, I went in again. It totaled over 18 years, and in the middle of the last one, I actually escaped from prison, which was profiled on America's Most Wanted website. They put, and it was nothing fancy. I escaped from prison, I don't know, 50 times, if I'm not exaggerating, maybe 20 times. But the one time that I didn't come back is the one they were concerned about. I'd escape all the time and then come back.
Screw Ghislaine. Forget, we don't even want to talk about Ghislaine. How did you escape from prison?
It was nothing fancy. I was on work details. I would either walk away, but they noticed right away and they put a perimeter and they're hunting for you. And then I was pinned down in an apartment one time with the SWAT team at the door, banging, trying to get in. I knew they didn't know I was in the place. They didn't have consent to search. They didn't have a warrant. They had no exigent circumstances. I was a law clerk in prison. I just sat there quiet, waited for them to leave. So they actually were onto me. They tracked me to a residence that I was at in Fort St. Lucie when the last one happened.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so they only really charged me with the one where I didn't come back.
So you're innovative. You're very innovative. I like this. So on to the infamous Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right.
Point blank, was Jeffrey Epstein murdered or did he commit suicide? What's your take?
I tend to think from all outward appearances and the fact that Jean Luc has also been found hung in his cell a few days ago in France. I tend to think murder because they have somebody dealing with different intelligence agencies, which I know a little bit about, but I'm not going to go into it because I'm not trying to turn up dead also. But we all know the countries. I support Israel. I support the CIA and the Mossad. I love you guys. But
by the way,
I don't necessarily.
William, my very good friend from childhood, I've known him since second grade. He was a guest on our podcast. You need to listen to all our old episodes. His name, he's out from the shadows. He spent 26 years as a covert op in the CIA all over the world. They taught him Arabic. He's a Greek kid, Greek and Jewish from Highland Park, New Jersey. And he's out from the shadows. We had him on the show. He was actually hit with that Havana syndrome. So he's got really terrible vertigo and headaches, and he's getting treatment for it. But he'll appreciate that you're pro-CIA. I'll have a talk with him and make sure that they keep their hands off of you.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah, but so
I think I'm more concerned about MI6 right now. Who knows what they're up to?
With Ghislaine.
What I personally saw with Andrew, they're not going to be too happy about it when they get their hands on the video.
All right, listen, I want to get into that, but first, before we get there, how did you get?
How are you related?
Yeah, how did you get to meet Jeffrey and Ghislaine? And I have to ask you this too. A lot of people are going to say, "Oh, this guy's a career criminal. Is he full of crap? How do we believe him?" So, if you can address all of those issues, how did you meet him, and why do we believe you?
It's
Well, a lot of
irrelevant what
videos-
they say. The main thing is that he has a theory.
Carmela, I am a reporter. It is
Okay.
my duty to ask these. I seek the truth.
Seek the
William,
truth.
go ahead.
Okay, what did she say?
Now, how did you meet Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine?
All right. Several years ago, without getting into a lot of detailed timelines, I met him when I was dealing with a fence in Palm Beach on Worth Avenue. It was a diamond salon. I was in there getting ready to do some business. I had a few $100,000 in stolen jewelry.
Excuse me, wait 1 second. Did you hear the word fence?
Fence, yeah.
Good, because I didn't think you heard it.
What is that? What do you mean?
You talking.
What?
No, the fence is the person who sells it for you.
Oh, I didn't.
You see, he didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
You
Sorry.
see, I am right.
I didn't
You
get
said
it.
you were talking with the fence, a guy who will buy it from you and dispose of the things, right?
Right.
How did you know that term?
Because I know a lot more than you do.
Yeah, I had no idea what he was talking about. My mother knows
Boy,
me
hey,
well.
you're supposed to know these things.
Yeah, I didn't. Okay, so you were talking to a fence. I love that. Never heard
Fence.
that. I've never heard that in my
Right.
life. So okay, so you're talking to this fence.
A fence is somebody who would buy stolen things, no question asked.
Wow, never heard of that. Thank you.
Okay, get over it.
Carmela, you're also not talking into the mic because you're like leaning. No, not that close over here. And this is
Oh my
embarrassing.
God, now he wants to feel superior again.
Okay,
Go ahead.
William, the floor is yours once again.
Sorry, we are not going to interrupt, but it bothered me that he didn't know such an important term. Go ahead.
That's good. You raised a good boy, very sheltered. He doesn't need to know these things. From what I hear, you won an Emmy even.
Yes, I did.
So what happened was I was at a fence, Palm Beach on Worth Avenue. There's a diamond salon, second floor. I don't want to name the name of the owner because I don't know if he's still around or not, but not to be named right now. I go in there. He's at the other counter, who I now know to be Jeffrey Epstein. He's with a young girl. I don't know if you've read my book yet, but he's with a young girl that looks like a Taxi Driver era Jodie Foster.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly like her. A 13-year-old. He's got his hand down the back of her pants in this salon.
Mm-hmm.
Very private place, but it was very inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was incensed, but I was at the time having issues with the police. I had stolen jewelry on me, several $100,000 in jewelry. I had a gun in my bag with a silencer on it.
Mm.
And so I didn't need to make a scene here. I just needed to isolate him and get him alone. And I left right after he did and followed him down to a place called Taboo, which was a little restaurant on Worth Avenue, and confronted him in there. That story is played out in the book, but that's how I met him. I confronted him about that, and I told him, I said, he claims she was some kind of relative. I said, well, let me tell you something. And then she told me the same thing. I said, whatever the situation is, it was completely inappropriate. My buddy owns that place and there's video there. So you don't have to worry about the cops, but he should call the cops or I could call the cops. I said, but if I was her father, I'd put a bullet in your effing head right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had let him see the gun. And that's how I met Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow.
And I meet a lot of odd people in what I do in areas I operate in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not afraid to talk to people because I like to network and get to meet people and find out who's who and what's what, for other opportunities.
Yeah.
So I was very, very upfront about meeting people no matter the situation. And that's how I met him.
Very amiable guy. So what was his reaction when you showed him this gun and said this to him?
He was very arrogant. He didn't want to come over to speak to me. So I confronted him and told him what it was about. I said, I saw what you did in such and such long. And I said, the best advice I can give, need your time. Came over to my table and we talked, and he's very, very scared actually.
And then did you come to have like a relationship with him and Ghislaine after this?
It was what I'd refer to as a friendship of mutual usury because he had money and I had a bunch of jewelry, and he would buy jewelry for the models, for the people that he had around him. Not a lot. He didn't need to buy it for me. He didn't need to buy stolen jewelry, of course. But I think he realized I had a little bit of maybe dirt on him, and that I can go back to my friend, and my friend would give me the tapes if I asked for them at that time. But I also realized he had plenty of money, and he actually lived there, and he could probably get those tapes too if he talked to the guy. But so he dealt with me, I think, out of fear. But fast forward years later, if you read the book, he very much got back at me. I was by one of the bodyguards. I was blocked from leaving a room, basically by a gigantic bodyguard or security detail that he had there. So he really got back at me, years later after that.
This initial meeting where you see his hand down this 13-year-old girl's pants in public, although it's in a salon, what year was that?
I don't want to lock in timeline now.
Roughly, are we talking
late 90s?
Okay, so this goes back a long way. And and in between this period of time, you got locked up again and then came out and would see him and that's how you started to. I would see them periodically, and he eventually, I forget exactly when, introduced me to Ghislaine at the house, and that's how I met her. By the way, we talked about this
at the Palm Beach house.
We talked about this before. Don't tell me to shut up on my. See, you just got caught. You just got caught on the podcast doing what you do normally, but now you slipped. William Steele would never slip.
I never said.
William Steele would never slip.
Said, shut up.
You think when he's stealing jewelry, he slips?
Yes, sometimes.
No, he doesn't.
Unfortunately.
What was your question for William? We were talking.
1 second. Yeah, when you said bodyguards, were they his bodyguards?
Presumably for him personally, and possibly for the house. I mean, the guy was loaded, as we all know now, so he had security detail with him.
All right, what's your theory? What's your theory? Where did he get all his money from?
By blackmailing people, evidently. That's what I was able to determine. I think that's what the whole world's starting to see.
When you first met him in this time period in the late 90s, were you curious about what he did? Did you ask? Were you given an answer? Were you told what he did?
I think he said he was some kind of financial advisor. I called him out. I detected a bit of a Brooklyn accent. We both being from Brooklyn, we kind of connected at that level. Again, all the thing I wanted was, get my hands on his money at that time. At the house, I didn't see a lot going on, although there was women in and out of there all the time, including topless women at the pool. Some of them looked young, didn't necessarily look underage, but I didn't hang around there long because I wasn't sure what was going on.
What was
exactly
when you would go to visit him? What was the process? From the sidewalk or the driveway to get into the home? Was there a process? Did you have to go through security?
Well, they wanted to log my name down. Yeah, there was a process. There's a gate. Usually you call ahead or whatever. But I told them, don't ever log my name down. I think they may have. I think one of the black books might have my name on it or something. One of the household log books. But he didn't really have my true name at the time.
You know what is interesting, and I want to hear your comment on this. On one hand, he was fraternalizing with princes, presidents, very VIP people. But on another level, he was like on the same level as you, the cocaine using, breaking in guy. He was with you and with them.
He was negotiating between two worlds.
He was never really with me. He was never really with me. I kept him at arm's length and just did my business and left.
Yeah, but I mean is he was doing shady deals with you.
Right.
That's what I meant with you. Not necessarily going out to Cipriani for dinner, but still doing shady deals with you.
But before my
I thought you meant with me, as in some kind of,
No, hanging out with you. No. What I mean is that he did shady deals of very low sophistication.
Before my sweet 82-year-old mother told me to shut up. What I was going to say is that before we got on the podcast, we were all talking because there's 45 million ways to pronounce her name. Ghislaine, Ghislaine. So you were calling her G, but then I call her Ghislaine, like starting like.
No, but you do the American. She was.
And
born
how would you say it in French?
Ghislaine was born in France.
And how would you
right?
say her name in français? En français.
I would do a French
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine.
So, William.
But Ghislaine is good. So that's for our definition. When we talk about her, we will call her 3 different names: Ghislaine, and Ghislaine. American.
Beautiful. So, William, when did you first meet Ghislaine, or G as you call her?
Again, not locking in timelines.
Okay.
I'm still talking to some of the victim rights attorneys and law enforcement. At the Palm Beach house, over the course of time, he introduced me to her.
And what was your initial impression or reaction of her?
Arrogant, super arrogant British woman. I love the British people, but she just rubbed me the wrong way. She tried to be very controlling. And I warned him. I said, you need to check her about speaking to me the way she is. Very condescending almost.
Mm-hmm. You don't mess with Brooklyn. I love this guy, William.
You don't mess with Brooklyn.
William and I are hanging after this podcast.
You don't mess with Brooklyn for sure. We saw that on many occasions, including
we also had, remember?
My husband was born in Brooklyn. But the point is that you don't mess with Brooklyn, but the British try.
Shout out to Tommy Russo. We also had a guest on this podcast, William, named Tom Russo. He was the youngest captain in the NYPD, and he really towed the proverbial thin blue line. He was very close to leading a criminal life. He said he grew up in Brooklyn, rough childhood, but instead became the youngest captain in NYPD history. Another podcast to check out, another episode to check out. But so back to Ghislaine, I got to ask, even though my mother's in front of me, was she sexy when you first met her? Sexy woman?
Well, I'm not really going to get into that. My fiance is in with earshot of us right now. But I would say no, actually.
Really? Okay.
No, I would say she was. I saw pictures.
Okay. So this is interesting. And William mentioned this. There's a guy named Jean-Luc Brunel.
Yeah, that story we want is new one.
Carmel, this is precisely what I meant by not interrupting every 5 seconds. I love you.
That's an ethnic thing to interrupt.
Jean-Luc Brunel. He died by suicide in his prison cell this past Saturday night. Today is February 23rd, so it was whatever 4 days minus that. I'm not good with math. The 19th he died. In December 2020, Brunel was charged with rape of minors over the age of 15, as though that's a good thing. Rape of minors over the age of 15.
Not 12.
And sexual harassment, which shockingly is actually a crime in France. You wouldn't think it was. But so did you meet Jean-Luc Brunel, and what did you make of this when you heard this news?
I didn't realize who he was at the house, but I did see him there a few times, and Jeffrey just would tell me that he was a modeling agent.
William,
I didn't realize that he was actually securing women or minors and all this other things that were going on.
Who's the most high? I don't know if are you allowed to say this? Who's the most high profile person you saw? Are you willing to say that or no?
I named a few in the book. You'd have to buy the book to get. We
both bought the book
to get the list of the names. I am not keeping it secret, but there's not enough time in this interview to go through them all. But the highest profile, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Prince Andrew, and several others.
And you saw them there?
Oh, at the house? No, on video.
On video? And when you say on video, how are you getting access to this video? And this was video from his home?
That's the incident when he came in with that armed guard and basically put them on to let me know what he's been doing and what he's capable of and the risk that I'm in, to show me how powerful and how he had all these influential people basically trapped on video.
Can you explain that? Can you trace this for me because I'm a little slow on I'm a nice Jewish boy from New Jersey that went to Brandeis. I should have gone to locksmithing school, and I'm annoyed by this. But can you just?
It's also my fault.
It is all your fault.
Everything is your
It is all your
fault.
fault. Can you please? All right, rewind on this. Tell me, how did this part of this story go down? The security team approached you, and what's? I'm lost.
No, I eventually had a relationship with Ghislaine.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to invite himself into that more than once. I was paranoid about cameras in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I would be with her, it would either be not there or it would be with the lights off, which probably doesn't make a difference. And there was threesomes as well. He tried to invite himself into this, and I kept telling him, I don't know what I can actually say on this, but I was a very, very cocky Brooklyn guy at the time, and I said, if you set foot in this room, because he showed up at the door naked,
Mm-hmm.
I said, if you set foot in this room, I'm going to shoot you right in your... That's what I said.
Yeah.
So I was very cocky back then. And so he ended up, make a long story short, it's outlined in the book, he came with a security guy to the room to basically confront me and had me sit there while the assistant was putting different videos on the screen to show me that, you got me in the beginning, but I'm telling you that, I own you and I own all these people too.
Interesting.
There was a lot more said than that. And it was something he wanted me to do at the time, which is why he was sharing this with me. And it really terrified me, actually. I was in a very, very difficult situation. I was kind of not even going to be able to leave this room until I looked at some of what he was displaying.
I'm glad my mommy's here with me. Carmel, did I fully understand this? So is William having a sexual relationship with Ghislaine? Is that what he's telling us? Is that what you're telling us?
Yes. It's in the book.
I wish I had time to read this.
And it's documented. If they start releasing videos from the house, they should have me there.
William,
well, I don't know at that time if Epstein and Ghislaine had a sexual relationship any longer. I'm
sorry, I couldn't hear you.
At that time, when you two were busy, Ghislaine and you, I don't know if they were still in a sexual relationship, her and him, but it looks like they were. Looks like she was very busy.
She was very busy, evidently very promiscuous and very
what was she?
Very sick. Very sick.
In the olden times, they called them nymphomaniacs. I'm
pretty sure I called her that in the book or one of the other interviews.
Yes.
So
you called
I'm pretty certain I've called her that in the book and
nymphomaniac.
Right.
I'm just stunned right now.
Some people, it's very strange. If a man,
I live such a boring life.
If a man has 1 million women, it's totally accepted. If a woman has a lot of, but I think also that she liked Epstein, and Epstein kind of liked the young girls. But let me ask you something. I am going to say something terribly politically incorrect, and I didn't even bring this up. I was talking to a friend who will remain unnamed, and she said, it's horrible what happened. Horrible, horrible. But where were the mothers of all these young girls? Where were the mothers?
Maybe they didn't have them.
They were
maybe they were runaways.
They were all orphans.
William, what's your take on this?
No. The father of one worked at the father of the
people are enamored by power, and power is a drug like cocaine.
Notice everybody, he cut me off. Thank you. He cuts me off a lot.
William,
lately.
What's your take, William? Where were these young girls' parents throughout all this?
You're referring to the girls?
Yes,
the girls.
Carmela,
the girls.
My take at the time was they were disadvantaged. However, that's come out later in the media that most of them were from various disadvantaged homes and trailer parks in West Palm. Not only that, there was women there, young girls that were supposedly models that didn't even speak English. I saw that myself. I saw that on the video.
Okay, but let's say take the ones from West Palm. Most people have a mother. Maybe not everybody has a father, but where were their mothers? I tell you a weird story about Joel when he was really little. There was a coach.
Yeah, Barry Levine.
You remember?
Yes, I do.
And this coach, you tell the story. Tell very briefly.
Why am I telling the story?
Because the mothers have to know what their children are doing.
I had a Little League coach. I don't want to get into the story too deeply, but Carmela recognized something was amiss right away. He coached Little League, and then years later, it turned out that he was doing things.
I told Joel, you never, ever, he would invite the kids over for pizza after they won a game.
The main red flag is that he recruited players. He was the only guy, and he had this was 1982. He would have full uniforms and cleats, and the main red flag was I was a horrible baseball player, and he recruited me onto his team, which made no sense. But
the point is that as a mother, I had like a sixth sense, and then later, all these boys who were boys the same age with Joel came out, and they all said that he molested them.
Yeah, he went to prison. He went to
prison.
But
parents have to be vigilant then and now. This is a commercial for parents.
I think society these days is much more open to talking about these things, and the kids are hearing it over what to be careful for. Whereas years ago, a lot of these subjects were taboo, and people weren't believed. I have trouble with some of that myself. I've been in contact with victim rights attorneys. They call me a victim. I say I'm not a victim. I put myself in this situation. I don't want to consider I was inspired by the victims of Maxwell and Epstein, completely inspired to finally tell my story. And I didn't even write this book because I came forward and I turned over videos and stuff I took out of the house. Nothing ever came of it. Everybody was covering for these people. So it took a lot for me to write this book, considering people are dying and disappearing and having all kinds of blowback from coming forward. So he's dead. She's convicted. And I said, now's the time to write this book. I've tried everything else. I've tried to report this. And where were the parents? I don't know. Some of these women, and this is only from media accounts, I've heard some of them are from disadvantaged families. Their mothers were on drugs. They had medical problems. I don't know these girls really, other than what I've seen coming and going. I don't know their history.
Well,
they preyed on vulnerable people who needed money. And to them, a few $100s was a lot of money at the time.
Yeah, but all this I know because I have a master's in social work. Sorry to embarrass myself in front of you, but I have a master's in social work. And I know about disadvantage, and I don't want to do...
If you had a degree in locksmithing, you'd actually know something.
I don't want to do victim blaming. That's a horrible thing to blame the victim. The girls are the victims, and I just feel that they could have been... If I realized that they must have had parents who were distracted by other things in life and were not focused enough on what was going on with these girls, which doesn't take away anything from the people who abused them or took advantage of them. That's another fact. Okay, so I'm not doing victim blaming.
So
right, exactly. We support the victims, and there's nothing to be gained. I am now in touch with a few of the victims and these attorneys, and they've been through hell, and I completely admire and was inspired by them to really just tell the story. Book 2 is coming out soon, and the fact that you have training as a social worker, you probably were taught some red flags to look for. A lot of these people don't have, maybe the parents didn't have the education that you had, or even maybe I had.
When Epstein started to catch heat and things were closing in on him, what was your reaction to that? I mean, did you know his time was up?
I was actually oblivious to most of it because I was incarcerated at the time. And when I did learn about it, I had a connection in the media for something else I was dealing with. And I said, hey, I know these people really well, and I tried to turn in a lot of material that would be most likely incriminating. do you want to do an interview about that, or maybe help me get a hold of somebody that might now take it serious? And the email I got back all those years ago was, that story is no longer newsworthy. Excuse me. So I don't have a lot of insight about how that kind of unfolded. I know that the last time I was there, everything was in disarray. She was very concerned, which I put in the book. There was a mention and a discussion about how she wanted to have Jeffrey Epstein killed because she said he was going to be the death of her. So she was entertaining that. And I said, well, considering who we won't say that agency with the M and all these other people they know and the money they have, why would you bring this to me? Unless to do something and then have security detail perhaps kill me after the fact. And so I did not want to get involved with that. But I know at that time there was a lot of disarray and panic going on with her and with him.
When this all broke open, were you approached by the authorities? I mean, law enforcement? Were you ever interviewed or talked to?
Not officially. No, I've mentioned it to a few people that I know, and I think that basically they have enough. And as far as the victim rights attorneys, I don't want to sue. I never wanted to sue. I was never looking for a penny about some of the stuff I experienced at the house. Being trapped there, being taken advantage of when I was trying to get the hell out of there. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to say, look, I tried to report this officially the best I could while I was actually a fugitive. I tried to report it. So you can't really walk in and have a conversation at that time.
So you mentioned Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, which is interesting that she was involved. And there's a lot of talk that Bill Gates got divorced because of his connection to Jeffrey Epstein. But again, just clarify for me how you know or believe that they were actually involved.
Saw it with my own eyes, heard it directly from Jeffrey. What the circumstances were, why that was going on. Saw it with my own eyes.
And in that situation, when he sort of
not live, the videos.
And so you saw the video, surveillance video, and when he kind of threatened you, was he more than implying? Was he telling you that he has powerful people under his thumb and that you're basically nothing and he could squash you if he wanted to? Was that the intimation?
You hit it right on the head.
Really?
He made it very, very clear that he always gets what he wants, and I need to start playing, with him. And something he wanted done was not going to happen.
So
he wanted somebody else.
So in somewhere in this world exists video, you believe, of Bill and Hillary Clinton, of people like Bill Gates, of Prince Andrew. You think there's video out there? Someone's in possession of this video.
110%. And there's probably more than one copy of it going around.
Carmela, if we got that video, Surviving the Survivor would have 100 million subscribers. And William Steele, I know you have a podcast yet, William Steele?
I think
we
should.
did start a YouTube channel, William Steele Author. You go to YouTube, William Steele Author. My website is williamsteeleauthor.com. And there's a couple of other videos that we've done, and we're going to be putting up some more content. Again, I was released from prison. Actually, this month makes a full year that I've been out.
Mazel tov.
All this is new to me. I have a brand new, beautiful iPhone. Barely know how to use it. I'm learning how to use social media. I want to tell my stories, and I want to be able to help people. That's my whole objective, is being a victim advocate, working with my fiance. We're a team, and we do this together. And she's got her stories from California, and I have mine.
William, you're a sweet guy. Stay out of prison for me. I need to hang out with you in Miami Beach, but I still have many questions. This one I could go on for hours. I know your time's a little limited, but what did you make of the? You'll get your chance, Carm. What did you make of the Prince Andrew settlement? I mean, that's basically an admission of guilt, right?
Well, it's funny in a way. Virginia Giuffre can do whatever she wants, and there's some people that said that she was actually, as she got older, was actually bringing younger girls to him. So she's, assisting authorities now. She'll probably never be charged because she's a victim. She's entitled to take that settlement. I know it disappointed a lot of people because they wanted more stuff to come out during the case. But it's ironic that I just did my interview with several media outlets, and the one that's on newsstands right now on the February 28th edition.
That's a National Enquirer, right?
That's right. I'm in the National Enquirer this week. It's on newsstands.
Okay.
About these videos and about Andrew. But the interview is done before she took the settlement. Mm-hmm. So it literally came out right after the settlement. If they would get their hands on the videos, I don't know that there'd ever be a settlement. I think Virginia Giuffre would have been living in Buckingham Palace and, pretty much owned the royal family.
But I saw a picture. I saw a picture of that they said that she had a Polaroid picture that they authenticated, where she's now in Australia with 3 children, married, and she had a box of photographs, and they authenticated the one where she and Prince Andrew, who was 41 at the time and she was 15, are there, and Ghislaine is standing behind them, very proud of them.
If you notice in some of the pictures that have come out, she's right behind a lot of people, smiling like
exactly the madame,
like the
madame
in
the bordello.
Exactly, like she's hooking up all these wealthy, super wealthy guys with all these young women, and knowing what's going to happen.
I have a question before he cuts me off.
She'll cut you off instead, William.
Okay.
Let people finish their sentence, please.
No,
Go on.
But I knew it. I mean, it was finished. But now, you see, one second, senior moment. I always get it when
I'll slip right in here. Here's an interesting Ghislaine Maxwell fact. She was born, Carmela will have a field day with this as a therapist. She was born 2 days before a car accident that left her 15-year-old brother, Michael, in a prolonged coma until his death in 1967. The mother later reflected that the accident had an effect on the entire family and that she surmised that Ghislaine had shown signs of anorexia while she was still a toddler as a result of this accident. That's pretty crazy, traumatic stuff going on there. No excuse for what she did.
I'm sure she's the last child of 9 children and her father's favorite, right? Did you see that anywhere reported? But what I wanted to ask, I'm also trying to figure out life, what would you have done? Would you have just moved to New Hampshire and hope that the Americans don't catch you? When this was all going down with Epstein, or would you have disappeared to South America or Mexico or wherever and had a little plastic surgery and disappeared?
Well, first of all, I would have never done what they did, having sex with a bunch of kids. I mean, it's one thing if you're young and you're living out your fantasies and it's adults. It's another thing when you're these teenage girls and boys, that you're doing these things with and then blackmailing famous people. So I would never be in that situation. But if I went on the run and I was her, she specifically told me that if she leaves, she was going to go to France. She had what she called her Polanski plan because she had dual citizenship. She could not be extradited from there. If she made it to France, my understanding is they can never extradite her. If you notice, Jeffrey, the second he flew back in from France, they arrested him in New York, and the regular squad investigating these people, my understanding, they weren't involved. They had a public corruption squad in New York, FBI, investigating them. So that means how many other public officials are going to go down, hopefully, that were involved with these people. It was the public corruption squad that actually picked him up.
All right, but why didn't Ghislaine disappear? Why did she it's almost like she wanted to be caught?
Who knows? Maybe like a deer caught in the headlights. She knew she was caught. She believed, her yes men, I guess, around her. Maybe her attorneys. Oh, don't worry, they would have got you a long time ago. My understanding is they had a deal in South Florida that some of the actual perpetrators helped craft this deal. that all known and unknown co-conspirators community. If a lawyer was involved and you help craft this deal, you're actually protecting yourself in this plea bargain. What they didn't count for was that deal only counted for the Southern District of Florida. It didn't apply to New York, the Southern District of New York. So the lawyers are phenomenal lawyers, but they really, misadvised them. So she probably thought she was protected by that same deal, if she could never be charged.
So what's ironic and interesting, you're from Brooklyn. She winds up in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, of all places. And her brother,
Right.
Ian Maxwell, who's 65, says he is terrified for his sister's safety. Should he be, William?
Listen, she's got dirt. She knows where the evidence is against a hell of a lot of powerful people worldwide. My understanding, Saudis, all kinds of people. A lot of that material was given and shared with intelligence agencies. If she talks to get a deal, she might get a deal for 10 years. 10-year deal, tell us everything you know, witness protection. But guess what? Who's not gonna recognize her in witness protection?
Mm-hmm.
She's just so prominent that there's no way she can successfully hide in this day and age with a camera and the internet everywhere.
I mean,
so even if they gave her a deal and let her out in a few years, I think
I have another question.
She's in danger in prison. She's in danger everywhere.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. You have been in prison, and I know in prison there is some kind of a justice in a certain way. There are certain things that are not tolerated among the prisoners, and they killed the prisoner. So the fact that would this be like a danger? Let's say if she were with the population of prisoners, would they kill her because she was providing these underage girls? Would this be enough? Sometimes if they did certain things that they killed them afterwards.
In my opinion, in a case like hers, if she does make it to prison somewhere, she'll be in protective custody. She still will be extorted and victimized there, but there will be people that come around her, especially gang members and all that, that'll offer her protection. Hey, just have your family, put $50,000 a month on my account until you go home, and you'll be protected. When it's a wealthy pedophile, they'll let them exist for payment.
I got
If she didn't have the money to pay this extortion when she gets to prison, she's not going to last long in population. Probably not even in protective custody. But because she's got money, so I think if anybody gets to her, it's going to be if she decides to make a deal and turn in what she has, and then it gloves off. They're not going to send inmates together. It's going to be staff. It's going to be medical department. It's going to be a drug somehow.
Wow.
There was even rumor that that Diana, the mother of William and Harry, was the Windsor Castle. The orders came from Windsor Castle, and now Andrew is compromised. Some orders can come from Windsor Castle also.
Is it possible that powerful people are corrupt?
Oh no, they've all got the right way.
Well,
is there a quotation that says absolute power corrupts absolutely?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, we're talking about this sort of, we're digging into it. But if you really step back and you think about this story, I mean, here's a guy who is basically a nobody, a hustler, a street hustler, claimed to make money on Wall Street, was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he got this money from people like the Clintons, like Donald Trump. By the way, you ever see Donnie Trump on video?
Don Jr.?
No,
Senior.
the senior.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Well,
Or
get into that.
Or Junior. No?
I have my own reasons why I don't want to get into that. Very
Okay.
people I know are very well
Connected.
I just can't get into that right now.
No worries.
No,
I understand that in Brooklynese. I'll move right along. But what's amazing is
Let me put it to you this way. When I got engaged, we stayed at Trump International Hotel in Chicago a few weeks ago.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So here is what's incredible. Really, not much has come out of this other than Prince Andrew. And The fact that she got caught and Jeffrey Epstein is dead. I mean,
but they all fit in together like a puzzle.
yeah, they fit together perfectly, but it's just it's mind-blowing because the powers that be are really keeping this sealed shut. And I don't want to offend anyone watching the show, but Americans are basically dumb morons and believe what they're told.
That's terrible to say. You should say some Americans.
They believe that this guy was committed suicide. There's just no way. The same circumstances. I mean, this guy, Jean-Luc, the guards were asleep. The video was off. Epstein's guards were asleep. The video was off. I mean, how dumb do we have to be to believe this? William?
No, nobody cares except for the victims and the victim advocates. Really, that's what happened to them. At the same time, it's my opinion that these various intelligence agencies and governments are manipulating this entire thing. They'll let it play out until they get wind that somebody's going to cooperate, like her. If they get wind of that, in my opinion, she will not last long after that. Even if they try to hide her, I don't think she'll last long after that.
True confession. For example, when O.J. Simpson crime, I thought it was like from Central Casting, and I was much younger, and I really followed that story. This story, I kind of sort of went in and out a little, but now here is what I thought, just logic. Okay, I thought this guy made money hustling rich people and offering them investments and making money. And then when he was at a certain point, he would also offer them women. Okay, but I am thinking, my brain is telling me now that actually from the beginning he was like a pimp, and that this is how he pimped his way through, only on a higher level, not on the street level, but on the influential people level. And he was like a con artist to set himself up into this business.
Somebody asked me if I thought he was an asset or an agent, as far as Jeffrey goes, and I say he was definitely an asset. I think it's pretty obvious.
So
he was a useful idiot for a lot of people.
William, how do you think, you sort of alluded to this, at least on the Ghislaine part, that if she cooperates, she's basically done. But how does this all end?
I think if she doesn't cooperate, she gets sentenced in a few weeks. I think she's probably going to end up with 20 or 30 years in prison. And, I don't know. It doesn't look good for anybody in her situation to begin with, let alone she's not going to be if she cooperates, she's not hiding from gang members or mob guys who, not going to be able to find them and don't have the wherewithal to really track people down. How are you going to hide from the intelligence agencies? They're all over your internet. They monitor voice prints, your movements, your phones. There's no way, even in custody, she can hide from what's coming, in my opinion, if she decides to cooperate.
And
I think she probably will. I think she'll try her hand and try to cooperate, but I don't think she'll last long after that.
And you think this goes, and I don't want to jinx, because now we're implicated, Carmel and I, but you think this goes all the way up to...
We are a part of the crime.
We're part of the syndicate. Finally, I've done something exciting in my life. Do you think this goes all the way up through the intelligence communities who are dealing with this?
Yes, he just said
without a doubt. That's what I said.
Okay.
Anything more specific than that, I'm not going to say, but that's what I've been saying. It's so dangerous to even talk about. And if she offers up the evidence and who and why, she's not going to last.
But really,
she won't be hiding from street gang members or mob guys. She's hiding from intelligence agents. Who's been able to pull that off?
But William, it's lose-lose for her. Lose.
William?
Didn't the Mossad even get like Adolf Eichmann and all these characters in South America? They'll spend a lot of money to get people they want to get.
William, I may not have gone to locksmithing school, but I just came up with a brilliant idea. You and I host a podcast just about Ghislaine Maxwell. We'll get a gazillion followers, and the title of the podcast is called The G-Spot. And you and I host.
You know what's crazy about that. I don't know if you got broke into my social media or hacked me or something.
No.
But that was gonna be the name of my book.
Really? Really? Great
Yes,
mind.
but I thought it was a little too flippant because it is a serious topic. And so I went with sensational and impure because the judge said the material in the case concerning certain things was too sensational and impure to be released.
Wow.
I used that.
Wow.
But that was the title. That was the working title of my book.
Great minds think alike. Great minds think alike.
One more thought I had, that even if she came forward,
I'm sorry?
even if she came forward, because the actors are so high up that they could disqualify her. In other words, they would say that's just one woman who is trying to get out of jail.
Carmela, if you don't speak into that microphone and you keep looking away, I am going to have to remove you from this show. Because if you don't speak into a mic, people cannot hear you.
Joel,
continue.
I think it's something on this end. I don't know how to turn the volume up on this.
Oh, sorry. We're Carmela.
No, you are doing well. I am. Next time, I want to sit facing that way.
We'll
like
fix it for next time.
Because we are new in this studio. We are only for the.
But what you're Carmela,
time.
your point is that these people are so powerful, they're just going to say that she's just a whacked out woman.
Her.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
I mean, think about this. Think about this. They have access to everything under the sun, pharmaceutical, toxins. If she cooperates, who's to say something doesn't get into her system that kills her from a heart attack, the next day, or makes her mentally ill, like some kind of LSD even. I don't know. Something they can give you that would make you out of your mind, and they can't use her as a witness anymore.
I was just watching.
That something like that can easily be done by corrupting prison or jail staff. I've seen them bring in cell phones, drugs, heroin, Suboxone strips, all this stuff. They're corrupted by lowly gang members. Can you imagine how easy it would be for them to insert an employee in those settings that's handing her her food tray?
Yeah, I've been watching this.
Yeah. You know what I say, William? That life is like slow loss of illusions. Like slowly, one by one, you lose your illusions about the beauty of this or the beauty of that.
Yeah. You want to think your best about people, and I've been to prison with guys. You would never dream to look at them that they were involved with some of the things they were involved with. You can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, all that stuff is just so true. You lose your illusions. You think the best of people.
So let me ask you a question.
But you really have to be on your guard and just go. I do read my Bible, and it says something about go through life, wise as a serpent, gentle as a lamb. You have to be aware that there are snakes all around us.
Interesting.
This is what I was going to ask you. In light of your life till now, do you feel that you have peace of mind now, or you feel that you still have a little turmoil going on about what happened?
No, I don't really. Unfortunately, there's a big burden lifted when you finally do get this off your chest, and there's been a lot of support, a hell of a lot of support. But no, I don't have peace of mind because I do know that people are turning up dead. And, I just have to face reality that doing the right thing sometimes has a cost.
I think she means with your life, do you feel like you've kind of come full circle? Do you feel rehabilitated? Do you feel like you're going to be able to stay out of trouble now?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody says that, and then they get right back in trouble again, right?
Yeah. Call Carmela if you get the urge. She'll walk you through it.
Okay. No, I'm not such a saint. Don't paint me
Carmela,
such a saint.
Carmela, thank you for asking. But no, this last experience in prison, I lost my mother. She was mentally ill. Nobody notified me. I don't have contact with my adult children. There's been so much suffering and loss. I've lost so much. There's an expression, the days of darkness have caused you to see the light. I realize that that's just a dead end, and I don't want to spend a second longer locked up. So turning it around is far more rewarding than that. I'm not making anything really, to even survive, basically. I'm just getting by, but I also just got released after so long in prison. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a phone. I have a TV show, but that doesn't pay till down the line sometimes. But
can you tell us a little bit about? Can you tell us a little bit about the TV show without telling us too much?
Right. My contract says I can't talk about the name of the show, the title of the show, or the network right now until they start their own PR and putting their own trailers out. But it's on one of the most gigantic TV networks there is. It's a show essentially about my life and reacclimating to society after being in prison so long, and my work in being a victim advocate, an author, everything that I'm doing, associating with people that I live with, and those relationships, how they play out after I've been in prison so long.
Well,
so it's really tracking my life and my success. We actually did one of the episodes at a book signing. Barnes & Noble wanted me to do a book signing, but because of COVID, there was restrictions, and we had to do it at some little mom and pop bookstore. And so that's actually going to be in the show. But
I am looking forward to it.
Rejoining society after my life.
You let us know. I mean, don't forget. Don't just say now, I let you know. You let us know and we'll watch it.
Absolutely.
We feel like we are your relatives now.
And when you're when you're in,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, when you're in Florida, you come visit us in Miami Beach, the other Brooklyn.
Yep.
Meanwhile,
I used to live in Coral Springs, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach. I was all over Boca.
Are you Italian or Irish?
I'm Sicilian and I'm Sicilian and English.
Sicilian and English. See the hand movement. I love it. So William Steele, once again, is the author of the very popular new book, Ghislaine, Sensational and Impure. You can order it on Amazon. Ghislaine, Sensational and Impure. He's got a YouTube. What's the name of the YouTube channel?
William Steele, author on YouTube. Please subscribe. And I also remind your viewers to support the victims. And I put this in all my books. I have 2 books out now. All that's meant for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
That's right, on every level.
It's awesome.
Edmund Burke.
Every level.
William, it was great meeting you. Please stay in touch.
All right, thank you.
Right back with the
great to be
news.
here. You guys have a great show and a great dynamic between you two.
Thanks,
God
William.
bless you.
Welcome back. It's time for the news schmooze.
You know, I gotta say, William Steele seems like one of the nicest guys. Like if I was in a prison cell with him, I'd have a great time. Actually, feel like I'd have a good time with him. We'd just hang out. What do you think? What was your take on him? It's so crazy to me. These people
I was surprised that he doesn't know Navia because they're both very jovial, likable, bright, clever.
Ex-criminals.
But this guy is very Italian, Brooklyn.
Yes.
And the other is very Cuban, Miami.
Although
I love them both. We both love these characters. We love them more than any. We love more than any other of the normal characters.
I don't know. William has such a sweet way about him. I mean, I'm sure he's got another side that we haven't seen.
He even admits that he used guns and he's threatened with guns.
But honestly, there is a part of me that is always jealous of this because of their innovative thinking. Made millions of dollars, something I can't say for myself.
Joel, he just said that he had hardly any money to buy a car.
Well, that's after he got out of prison. But when he was
dealing in diamonds.
Yeah. On to the news schmooze. Buckingham Palace aides have reportedly rewarded a nursery. Reworded. I'm sorry. I'm shaken up over this whole. I can't get over what's going on. But in light of the fact that we were just talking about Prince Andrew, Buckingham Palace aides have reworded a nursery rhyme to mock Prince Andrew over his roughly $12 million settlement with former Jeffrey Epstein sex slave Virginia Roberts Giuffre. And it goes like this.
Okay.
The grand old Duke of York, he had 12 million quid. He gave it to someone he'd never met for something he never did. The new spin on the nursery rhyme goes. The lyrics refer to the disgraced royal's infamous 2019 interview with the BBC in which he claimed to have no recollection of ever meeting Ghislaine, despite a photo in which he was seen with his arm around the then 17-year-old at a now convicted Madame Ghislaine Maxwell's home. So this stuff is in the news as we speak. Do you believe that such powerful people are this disgustingly corrupt?
Very honestly.
Yeah. Do you have a hard time? Honestly, do you have a hard time believing it?
I feel I learned what Epstein was all about. I always have illusions still, like I have to shed more.
Because they made it sound like he was like some brilliant investment mind.
Exactly. That's my point. That his money he did with investing and money, and it's all sex. I am kind of happy that sex is so important.
Sex sells, man. He was worth $500 million.
Sex is it.
Yeah. So we had the author.
By the way, it's better to make love than to make war. This is not with adolescents, not with teenagers.
So we had the author who spent, speaking of criminals, more than a decade with BTK. I thought this next story was pretty interesting in light of this. Michigan school shooter Ethan
Joel,
Crumbley.
If you don't hurry up, I'm not.
He shot up a school recently in Pontiac, Michigan. He said that he enjoyed listening to the death squeals of baby birds. He wrote about wanting to rape a female classmate and idolized cannibal killer Jeffrey Dahmer. The new revelations come from Oakland County Assistant Prosecutor Markeisha Washington during a lengthy hearing. In text threads with his friend, he outlined plans to stalk, rape, torture, and ultimately kill a female classmate. Crumbley said he admired both Jeffrey Dahmer and Adolf Hitler because, and this next part that I'm going to read, I can actually relate to. Because when you die, you need to be remembered for a long time. I understand that. I feel that way myself. What am I going to be remembered for? I have 3 children. Luckily, I didn't, express it in this manner by killing birds and listening to them squeal.
Using this venue.
Using this venue, but I do understand Ethan Crumbley's desire to be known. Other than that, I condemn everything he's done, for the record. On to this last story. This hits home personally. This is a wild, crazy, really actually shook me up. Conservative media personality Zoe Zozo Bethel. She was crowned Miss Alabama for a pageant known as America Strong. She died days after she fell out of the window of a 3-story building, according to the Miami Police Department. They responded to a possible suicide attempt on February 11th at 12 a.m. She was later identified as Bethel.
What is 12 a.m.?
Midnight. A week later, she died. The cause of her death was blunt force trauma. Why is this story so interesting to me?
Because
I was doing a report.
You even told me about it. You told me
I was
at the time.
doing a report in downtown Miami in an area known as Brickell. And this woman, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks before she was dead, 27, she walked up to me and said, "Excuse me, I'm trying to be a news reporter." I was with my photographer, Walter, who is better known to me as Chris Rock. He looks and sounds just like Chris Rock, the comedian. And as I was talking to her male friend, Walter was hitting on her unrepentantly. She's a beautiful young woman. She was Miss Alabama, stunningly pretty and very intelligent. And she said to me, "What should I do next about my reporting life?" And I said, try this and try this. 2 weeks later, dead, gone, forever. And I don't think she committed suicide. And there's a lot of suspicion. There's a lot of suspicious circumstances surrounding this case.
Joel, by the way, you should call
First
the police.
They reported that it was
an accident. You should call the police and tell them about this conversation, because this is another proof that she wasn't depressed or suicidal.
She was sweet, did not seem depressed. She had recently moved to Miami. She was a very religious woman. She's 27. And wow, it really freaked me out.
All right. Let's move on, because I'm sorry.
Is it possible that you can be alive 2 weeks ago and not be alive 2 weeks later?
even an hour before you can be alive, before you die.
May her memory be a blessing and may her family be okay. We'll be right back with 3 questions for Grandma.
It's time now for 3 questions for Grandma.
I got to say, of all the 3 questions for Grandma, and we got to switch this episode either back to This Week in Dead and Dying at your condo or something, but this has to be the way it was. I wish I had it on video, like Ghislaine has stuff on video, because, well, that's actually a horrible analogy, but I meant video proof. Because the way she asked this question was so funny. This comes from ZZ Bugs, my 6-year-old, who comes in today and asks the following question. And admittedly, I do have an addiction and I have a problem. She says, why does my father say he doesn't eat sugar, but has a pound of peanut M&Ms, regular M&Ms, and a bag of the unwrapped Rolos, which are caramel-filled chocolates, by his bed? Why would he have that if he says he doesn't eat sugar? She caught me red-handed.
Because he's a liar there.
Red-handed.
Your daddy is a liar.
I can't stop eating chocolate, especially at night. Just terrible.
That's why
Question number 2.
you shouldn't keep it there. If you kept it, I know you. You are my son. If you kept it in the kitchen, you would be too lazy to go out there. 100%.
There we go. Putting me down again.
I'm not putting you down. I am like that myself. When we had a 2-story place and the bedrooms were upstairs, I looked slimmer because I was too lazy
You
to go
put
down.
enough pressure on a bowling ball, it will shatter.
Okay, go ahead.
Next question comes from Vita Aaliyah. Thought this was a good question. Perceptive. Why do dogs have hair and not skin? Carmela?
But they have skin under the hair, for heaven's sake.
And Judah Bear was not available this morning. He was busy drinking his bottle of milk, passed out because he was up at 3 a.m. doing work with me. So we have a part 2 from Vita Aaliyah. Why do dogs have wet noses, Carmela?
I used to know this. Wait a second.
You know, I'm curious. I'm going to Google this right now. Carmela, what do you...
We don't have time because
we have
we're
plenty of time. Why do dogs have wet noses? Why do dogs...
I think it's...
Why
Gee, I knew it.
Why do dogs
That's
have
terrible.
wet noses?
When you are 82-year-old, you forget what you knew and you don't learn anything new.
And my Wi-Fi is crappy in here and it's not loading.
Okay,
why do dogs have wet noses?
Tune in next week. We'll tell you why dogs have wet noses.
And noses secrete mucus. The inner lining of the dog's nose contains special glands that produce mucus to keep the nasal canals moist. A thin layer of mucus clings to the nostrils, enhancing the absorption of scent chemicals and improving the ability to smell.
This is another proof that God thinks of everything.
Amen. Carm, what do you think of Steele? I still can't get over this.
I think we are really lucky.
This is an awesome story.
We are really lucky. We find real interesting stories and characters and
best guests in all of podcasting right here on Surviving the Survivor. Arm, any final word? You want to stretch the next 8 minutes out?
No, I don't want to stretch. I have to run back to the hospital. Tomorrow is the big day.
God bless our father, my father, your husband, who's in the hospital. He'll be all right.
God willing. Let's go.
Love you, America.
I'm going back to the hospital.
Love you, America.
Okay, bye.